Hi, welcome back to VK Online Education Training course. The theme of this lesson is Professional Monitoring Event. We have previously introduced many types of monitor events. Normally, you can use the components of VK to set the conditions feedback monitoring. However, in professional mode, we are using a scripting language. We will use Lua script as the scripting language. We will use it to capture and parse the feedback from the device. In other words, we can use the characteristics of Lua script to parse very complex feedback message. And, we can also capture multiple message into our variables at the same time. So, in fact, the efficiency of this scripting language is very good. Next, let's take a look at the VK design page. For this example, we'll use VM3200 as our device. It's a common situation to integrate VK with VM3200, and synchronize all of its input and output. First of all, we have created 32 variables, which are output 1 to output 32. These variables are used to store the source of the input in each output. Then, on the design page, we created 32 text labels. Separately from output 1 to 32. We'll sync the state of VM3200 input-output into these tags. This way, we can read the numbers on these labels. We can see the status of all VM3200 input and output at once. Then, we go to the monitor event page. Here, we choose professional mode. Most of the settings is similar to the previous monitoring event we have explained earlier. We create a query command for this task. We'll use it to read the value of VM3200. Next, you will see an edit button in the middle. This is where the Lua script is written. That is where set up the rules for parsing feedback parameters. When we extract the information we want, Lua script will convert the values of these variables, and pass it back to VK6000 again. We can use the set variable command in the action part below. At this time, you will see an additional option called to output. What it means is, it will change the variables stored in output 1 into Lua output 1, and so on. We are using this function to allow VK to save the value that has been parsed by Lua script back into the output variable. VK will do it for all 32 output variables. So, VK will send the value to Lua script and then take it back after processing to synchronize it with the VK components. That is the software logic flow of this professional monitoring mode. Let's check the contents in Lua script. All the syntax you see refer to the standard Lua script syntax. You can find many related grammar messages and instructions on the internet. The next few points to be introduced are the syntax that is closely related to VK6000. First we see the first line. The structure of the entire script is in a function. We define this function using parameter message. This parameter is the feedback message from VM3200. In other words, inside this function, we are dealing with the content of this parameter. Then, according to the conditions we set, we need the information in these contents. These function will first extract the message. Next, it will have to make a precaution in case no message is received from VM3200. This variable will become nil or empty when no data is obtained. So, here we use a conditional judgment. To judge if the message are equal to nil or empty, we use the keyword return end. This will end the script function. This part is very important, so we suggest to use it at the beginning of every professional mode. Next, we will see this special syntax, called VK hex to ASCII. Because all the strings that enter the VK system are all stored in the form of hex code. Then, we want to use this syntax to change it to ASCII code. I converted from message variable to data variable using this syntax. In other words, the message contains the feedback in the form of hex code stored in the original VK. Using this syntax, we save it to variable data. It will become a feedback message in the form of ASCII code. Then the next part is the rules for retrieving feedback message. On the bottom part, we can see that we store the value in each output into an SW array. This concept will be introduced in detail in the following training courses. So according to our rules, the names of all the variables that need to be passed back must be like this. Because we have to pass these values back to VK6000. By definitions, it needs to have VK_var in front of its variable name. And then we need to combine it with the name of the variable Lua output 1. We can create many variables in Lua script, but as long as the value of this variable needs to be passed back to VK6000, then the name of this variable must follow this format. We also needs to pay attention to the number 1, which represents the ID name of this variable. ID name cannot be repeated. So if I built 32 variables, the ID is from 1 to 32. We also need special attention on the name of the variable Lua output 1 to 32. We can't use special symbols or spaces. From here you can see that I set the values in the array SW, one by one, and pass to this VK specially defined variable VK_var Lua output. After storing, we will use this command called vkdo commands. Vkdo commands is a bit like the function of the return command. It will pass the values of these variables back to VK6000. This vkdo command must also use such a fixed format. And it also has an ID. We can use multiple vkdo commands at the same time in a function, but its ID and its name cannot be the same. So, for the vkdo command, we define this name as status. You can also think of it as a triggered event. We put all 32 VK_var variables inside of it. Then, this status event will pass these 32 variables back to VK6000. You can see that there is a status in the action section. This is the event of oneDo command. And by using this, we can do any action in this event according to our needs. Of course, the most important thing is that we use setVariable. Save the value of Lua output back to VK6000 variable output 1. We can create multiple do commands according to demand. I will create a new ID2 here. The name of the variable is error, but the difference is, I just want to generate an event. In this error event, I don't store any variables. Here you will see a new event called error. We can define the action we want to do in this error event. And we can also use the status action we have earlier. It is what we originally defined to pass the variables of Lua script as VK6000. This is all the content of this unit. Thank you for watching. See you in the next lesson.